Zosia's body is the one on the ground at the end of Pluribus episode 4, not Carol's. Her chest is seizing, her face is pale, the IV bag swings uselessly in the background, and the hive circles in close chanting, "Please, Carol," while they try to bring her back. It feels like the show pulls the camera away right at the worst possible second and just leaves you there. So, does Zosia survive? Short answer. As of episode 4, we don't know for sure. The show stops at cardiac arrest, and they're working to revive her. No one on screen says she's dead. No official episode summaries or recaps confirm a death either. They all stop where we stop, with Zosia's heart failing and the hive trying to save her. But there's a lot going on in that final scene, and once you walk through it slowly from Zosia's side of things, it becomes less about did she die, and more about how much more can this woman carry, and what will it mean if she wakes up. Before we dig into that, quick thing. If you're into spoiler-heavy breakdowns, queer-coded sci-fi, and hive mind drama that actually makes sense instead of just looking cool, hit subscribe and hang out here. I'm going to be covering Pluribus all season. And you don't want to be catching up from the comments when episode 5 drops. All right, let's talk about Zosia. Zosia isn't just that smiling hive lady anymore. By the time episode 4 rolls around, she's the main voice of the hive, the person the hive sends to handle Carol. A walking echo of Helen, because she carries Helen's memories from the moment Helen joined before she died. That last part is important. From Carol's point of view, Zosia is the one who knows my wife like I did. Even if she hates that idea, she can't get away from it. Every time Zosia speaks softly or remembers some small detail about Carol's life, you can feel Helen's shadow standing there between them. And then there's the physical side. In episode 3, Zosia doesn't just represent the hive, she literally throws her body over Carol when the fake grenade turns out to be real. Carol pulls the pin as a bitter joke. Zosia sees what's about to happen and dives in, taking the blast. She survives, but she ends up in the hospital because of a wound that should have been Carol's. So when episode 4 opens, Zosia is already wrecked. She's recovering from a near-fatal injury that is 100% tied to Carol's anger, and the hives give her anything she asks for rule. Her ribs are probably broken. She's medicated. Her heart has already been through one major trauma, and she's still kind to Carol. When Carol comes to visit, Zosia doesn't sulk or lash out. She listens. She explains what the hive has learned about their own conditions since the joining started. She even tries to gently push Carol to see that the hive isn't just some smiling cult, that these people have lived both ways, and they really believe this new state is better. But Zosia also obeys the hive when it decides there are things Carol is not allowed to know. The big turning point is one simple question. Can the joining be reversed? First, Carol runs her honesty test at home. She grills a joined guy called Larry about her books and about Helen, trying to see if the hive can lie to her face. When he tells her Helen thought her novels were basically cotton candy and didn't even finish her serious book, that hurt feels so specific and brutal that Carol realizes something important. They're not sugarcoating anything. They may dodge your questions, but if they answer at all, they have to tell the truth. Armed with that, she goes to Zosia in the hospital and asks if there's any way to undo what's happened to the joined or to stop an immune person from ever being taken. And Zosia doesn't answer. She doesn't suddenly lie and say, "No, it's impossible." She doesn't say, "Yes, here's how." She just sits in that awful silence. That silence tells Carol more than words ever could. If there were no cure, Zosia could say so. The fact that she won't answer means the hive has probably found some kind of way to fix things, but they've decided Carol is not allowed to have it. From Zosia's side, that silence is her trying to hold two promises at once. She's loyal to Carol, she genuinely cares about her, and she knows how much Carol hates the idea of joining. But she's also part of a global mind that thinks this new happiness is worth protecting at any cost. She can't just hand over the off switch. For Carol, who once got sent to a conversion camp for liking women, this lands like the worst deja vu. Now the whole planet is basically saying, "We know what's best for you, just let us change you." No wonder she snaps. After that hospital visit, Carol walks straight into the pharmacy, steals sodium thiopental, the so-called truth serum, and tries it on herself at home. The scene is funny and raw. Drunk truth, Carol rants about the hive, admits she's attracted to Zosia, and sobs about Helen. It proves two things to her. The drug works, and under all her defenses, she really does want Zosia. Then she makes the leap that changes everything. She goes back to the hospital, slides the vial into Zosia's IV bag, and wheels her outside under the pretense of fresh air. She wants the same effect she had on herself. A mouth that can't hold back the truth. The second the drug starts to scramble Zosia's brain, Carol leans in and demands, "Tell me how to put things back the way they were." From Zosia's side, this is a nightmare. She's still healing from a blast that smashed her body. She's already under who knows how many meds. And now there's a new drug in her veins she didn't agree to, dragging her down fast while someone she cares about is shaking her and shouting for information she's not allowed to share. The hive feels that pain instantly. One of the most important things episode 4 shows us is how the others behave when one of them is suffering. They swarm. This is like an immune system surrounding an infected cell or cells rushing to a wound. In seconds, the circle tightens around Carol and Zosia. Hands reach in, they beg to help, and instead of backing away, Carol panics harder. She thinks they're trying to drag Zosia away and hide the truth forever. So she does something desperate and cruel. She handcuffs herself to Zosia's gurney and screams about her agency, while Zosia's body starts to fail right beside her. That's when Zosia's heart gives out. This is where we have to be careful and stick to what's on screen and in official summaries. The new trailer for the Pendragon Cycle just dropped. Right away it feels huge and cinematic, like something that belongs on a big screen, not just in a random scroll. The sets, costumes, and locations look rough, real, and lived in, like people actually fight, sleep, and bleed in this world. It has that classic high fantasy atmosphere, but with enough grit that you believe this is a real place with its own history. What makes it even more exciting is that it's based on the novels by Stephen R. Lawhead, so there's a real book-to-screen depth behind it. This isn't just a one-off story. This is the foundation of the Arthurian legend. Young Merlin is the main character here, and you can feel that his journey is what opens the path for King Arthur to rise later. The trailer teases epic battles, powerful magic, and a deep world that's ready to be explored over multiple chapters. There's been a serious gap in this kind of big mythic fantasy for a while, and the Pendragon Cycle really looks like it's stepping in to fill that space. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin premieres exclusively on Daily Wire Plus on January 22nd, 2026. Click the link in the video description to watch the trailer now. Here's what we know. Episode 4 ends with Zosia going into full cardiac arrest. Her heart stops. The joined around them know exactly what's happening. They're not there to fight Carol. They're there because they can feel Zosia's distress like it's their own. Carol realizes that if she insists they stay back, they will literally let Zosia die to keep her happy. Shaken, she finally lets them move in and try to save her. Recaps from multiple outlets all stop in the same place. They say Zosia collapses, she goes into cardiac arrest, and the hive works to revive her. None of them say Zosia dies or Zosia survives. They leave it hanging, often with language like, "It may be too late," or "It's possible she may not make it this time." Even the general series summary describes the ending in the same clipped way. Carol drugs Zosia. Zosia collapses from cardiac arrest. Others from the hive come in to try to revive her. There's no follow-up sentence like, Zosia dies in Carol's arms, or doctors successfully resuscitate her. It just cuts. So if we're answering, does she survive? Based only on what's released as of episode 4, we don't know yet. The show very intentionally leaves Zosia's actual medical outcome unresolved. What we do see is that the hive is actively working to save her, not harm her, and that Carol has finally stopped blocking them. The entire ending is staged in this limbo. Zosia's body failing, the collective fighting to keep her alive, and Carol crushed under the realization that she might have pushed the only person who truly showed her kindness too far. This is Vince Gilligan. If there's anyone who loves a slow burn moral cliffhanger more than a cheap shock death, it's him. Leaving Zosia's fate unknown does a few clever things. First, it keeps the focus on Carol's choices, not on a death announcement. The final image you're left with isn't a flat line. It's Carol looking absolutely shattered while the hive around her chants, "Please, Carol," like a prayer, a warning, and a plea all at once. Zosia's body is the consequence of Carol's obsession with staying unjoined at any cost. Whether Zosia ultimately lives or dies, Carol has crossed a line she can't uncross. Second, it underlines the show's biggest theme, agency. Zosia is the one whose heart stops. But everyone is talking to Carol. The hive doesn't scream, "Please, Zosia." They're begging Carol to let them help, to make the choice that doesn't end in a preventable death. That's messed up. And that's the point. The person on the ground has less say over her own survival than the woman standing next to her. Third, it lets the writers play with both possibilities as the story moves forward. If Zosia survives, they have a version of her who now knows, in her bones, that Carol will risk her life for answers. If she dies, they have a second woman whose blood is on Carol's hands. First Helen in the chaos of the joining, then Zosia after the grenade and the truth serum. Either way, Carol is going to carry this. Even though the episode doesn't confirm anything, there are some story reasons to lean toward she probably lives, at least for now. Zosia still has a lot of unresolved story weight. She is the one who carries Helen's memories. She's the main emotional bridge between Carol and the hive. She's also the clearest example of how the joined feel. They are genuinely happy, but they also feel pain, fear, and love. They just filter all of that through this new unified mind. Interviews with Rhea Seehorn even point out how Zosia has this tough acting job. She has to show compassion for Carol without mirroring her anger or sounding high as a kite. That delicate balance is a huge part of how we understand what the hive actually is. Killing her in episode 4 would be a massive hit to that emotional framework really early in the season. It wouldn't be impossible, but it would mean the show has to find a brand new way to put a face on the hive's kind but terrifying energy. On top of that, the ending goes out of its way to show the hive fighting to save her. They don't step back, shrug, and say, well, Carol wants agency, guess she dies. They beg. They crowd in. They treat her like a limb that's about to be cut off. If the show wanted to clearly signal Zosia is gone, they could have rolled to credits on a flat line or on Carol walking away from a covered body. Instead, they freeze us in the middle of a rescue attempt. From a pure TV logic angle, that usually means we'll tell you next week. On the other hand, Pluribus is not shy about consequences. Zosia has already taken a grenade for Carol. Now she's the one whose heart stops because Carol decided to use her as a human science experiment. This is a tragic betrayal of agency. Carol screams for her right to stay herself while literally tearing Zosia's right to safety out of her hands. If Zosia doesn't make it, that drives home a brutal message. Carol's fight for freedom is not cost-free. Every time she pushes back against this forced happiness, someone else's body pays the price. First, it was 11 million people convulsing when she had a rage meltdown in episode 2. Then it was Zosia's broken ribs in episode 3. Now it's her heart in episode 4. From a thematic point of view, killing Zosia would be the show saying, "You're not just a victim in this story, Carol. You're also a danger." It would also change how the Hive sees her. Right now, they're endlessly patient and bizarrely indulgent. They give her whatever she asks for, even when it's a grenade or heroin, because they think of her as something precious that must be protected at all costs. If Carol actually kills Zosia, the main emissary and the person who's been handling her, that blind worship might finally crack. So, yeah, there's a version of this story where Zosia doesn't get up from that grass, and that single loss reshapes everything. Whether Zosia survives or not, episode 4 already locks in her place as the moral spine of the Hive. She's the one who keeps showing up for Carol, even when Carol hurts her. She's the one who tries to honor both the Hive's decision and Carol's fear. She's the one who proves the Hive isn't some cartoon villain. It's full of people who are gentle, funny, and willing to sacrifice themselves if it means someone they love gets even a chance at happiness. If she lives, she's gonna wake up knowing that Carol used all of that goodness against her. If she dies, she becomes the show's clearest symbol of how messy this kind of freedom fight can be when you're up against something as enormous and invasive as the joining. You can be right about the principle. Forced joy is not real joy, and still be wrong in the way you fight it. And that's what makes her fate at the end of episode 4 hit so hard. The question, does Zosia survive, is really another way of asking, how dark is this show willing to go with the cost of free will? Right now, the honest answer is, we don't know yet. All we can say for sure is this. Zosia goes into cardiac arrest. The Hive gathers around and tries to save her. Carol, who caused the crisis by drugging her, finally steps aside and lets them work. The episode cuts before we see if their efforts work, and no official material past episode 4 has confirmed her death or recovery. What we do know is that, survive or not, Zosia has already paid more for Carol's freedom than anyone else. Her body, her memories of Helen, her soft voice in all those tense scenes, they're the things making Carol's war with the Hive feel real instead of just philosophical. So, yeah, keep an eye on Zosia when episode 5 hits. If she opens her eyes again, she's not just coming back as the Hive rep with the warm smile. She's coming back as the one person who knows exactly how far Carol will go, and she'll have to decide if she can still stand beside her after that. And if she doesn't wake up, then Pluribus is telling us something very simple and very cruel. In this world, even love and kindness can get crushed between a woman's need to stay herself and a Hive that refuses to let go. So that's where we leave Zosia, heart stopped, Hive begging, Carol finally realizing just how much she's broken the one person who kept showing up for her. Whether she wakes up or not, nothing in this world is ever going to be simple again. If you want to be here when we finally get the answer, when the show tells us if Zosia lives, dies, or comes back changed, don't just click away. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and make this your base for Pluribus deep dives that actually unpack the messy human stuff under all the sci-fi. And tell me in the comments, if Zosia survives, do you think she can ever really forgive Carol for this?